Hi, this is Tammy Lynn Kent, and this is part 2. I'm recording from my office of just a quick energy medicine series to help us in this challenging time. So if you haven't had a chance, watch the one I just did on reaction versus resonance. That's going to be really helpful medicine as we navigate these days. Another thing I wanted to address is just the feelings that we have happening in this time. There's so many. People are feeling afraid. People are feeling agitated, or kind of, I don't know if angry is quite the right word, but unsettled and kind of agitated could go into the anger zone. People are feeling deeply sad and grief struck because there's so many changes happening right now. And all of these things are normal. So it's about loving ourselves in that time. The best medicine I know for that, and I write about a lot of these emotions in Wild Feminine, so there's specific medicine practices for each emotion. So if you don't have a copy of this, you might want to get it so you can look at those. They are, the emotions, as women, we're very emotional creatures, and we also sense in the field, not only ours, but of our children, of our communities, of our partners. So we are feeling a lot right now, and that is to be expected. At the same time, those feelings can kind of overwhelm us and drag us down if we don't understand how to work with them as energy. So there's medicine in this book around that. I did record an audio version of this book last fall, so you can download that, and that might help you. But I just wanted to speak a little bit too about some of the antidotes that I know for these big feelings that we're all feeling. They're like, like lightning bolts coming through. So the first thing is just to really acknowledge them and know that this is going to happen and it's normal. And also, grief is going to be with us, because grief is part of every transition. Even transitions you want, grief is there. If you have a baby and you go through the doorway of giving birth, you may love that baby, but you're going to feel grief. And we don't always talk about that because it is a potent transition. We're supposed to grieve. So it's a process of, it takes away what we no longer need so we can move forward to the next phase. And this happens, of course, when we lose a loved one or someone we care close to us, or a relationship breaks up, or we shift, we move, we enter a new job. So this time we're in is a huge shift. So much is changing all at once. It's hard to keep up with. And if you're feeling agitated, it may mean that you need to grieve a little bit. Now, that's the thing about grief, is it's actually very restorative if we allow it. So it's when we resist it that it becomes a burden and drags us down. So know that it's normal to feel grief, and this is a time that we should be grieving, because we're losing a lot of our normal ways of operating. We aren't yet through the transition. We're in a transition phase. And so we will be having grief come up. And if we can meet that, it'll serve us. So what I mean by that is, even acknowledge that it's happening, and then sit down if you can, ideally on the earth if you can, and let it move. If you let grief move, you feel the heaviness of it, you witness it, you be with it, you allow for it, then it will move, and you'll find that on the other side of it, you feel a little lighter, because it just took something from you. I don't think we'll ever not appreciate our lives in the way that we now are aware of how blessed we were, of all the things that we're kind of temporarily losing, or some things are going away permanently. It's just a huge grief time. So we need to know how to work with grief. So my favorite way is to sit on the earth, feel it, feel the heaviness, even lay down if I can, or if it's cold or wherever you are raining, you can lay down on the sofa and just wrap a blanket around yourself. The main thing is not to numb yourself out or keep busy, but actually feel it. And it's usually a fairly quick pass through when we allow for it. You can also light a candle. There's a meditation that I will lead you through in a minute called Bringing the Great Mother with you, and that feeling of being held when you're in a grief place is really powerful. So we'll do that in a minute. And just in general, I just want you to know that it's normal to be grieving, and that it's okay, and that the grief is healthy, actually, because we are being stripped away of things. And if we meet that grief, then it's going to help us move forward in the transition and receive what we're meant to receive. Okay. So a few other things, just if you're feeling agitation that's more like anger, often if you can think about, there may be a need underneath it that needs to be met. So try to tune in not just to the agitation, but to the need. Like, what is my need right now? And if you can tune into that and figure out a way to meet that need, you may feel better. With fear that's coming up, and again, these are written about more in depth in here, but I'm just trying to do a quick explanation so you have some medicine at your fingertips. With fear tends to freeze us. So you want to bring breath and movement. So it's a good time to do yoga, take a walk, breathe a little more deeply. We should all be working on our lung health right now and taking deep breaths, because everybody's holding their breath a little bit, like what's going to happen. So really work on your breathing every day. Get out into the fresh air and say thank you to the air and take it into your lungs. So work with that. And anytime you're feeling afraid, look at where you're feeling constricted and bring breath. Okay, that's a good one. Sadness and grief are a little bit different, but for the sake of right now, I'm just going to kind of call them the same thing. Sadness is sometimes when you're losing things, that you want to stay connected to. Grief is more of a generalized process. But the next meditation I'm going to do really works for both of those things. So just invite you to get comfortable. And we're just going to bring the Great Mother a little bit closer. So invite you to lie down, sit somewhere comfortable, and just close your eyes. Now, the first thing is we often feel alone in these times, even if we're talking to people, and also we're having to socially isolate. So we may really feel more alone than we normally are. So I'm going to invite you to just tune into your field. And then we want to bring on the concept of the Great Mother. So for me, that is the Earth Mother. So I often like to think of a beautiful landscape like the ocean where I'm being held in the sand, or it could be the forest with a beautiful meadow and a little stream. Go ahead and let it really be a place that feels like it holds you. So call this to mind. So imagine there is this beautiful place, or if it helps for you to actually think of a real person or think of a goddess energy. But I want you to imagine that you are being held. So in your mind's eye, if you're in a landscape, just let the earth hold you. Feel the ground underneath you hold you. If you're sitting in a chair, imagine that is this loving embrace. If you're leaning against the couch, imagine that's a loving embrace, and really let yourself be held. It's good to actually have practices every day right now where you feel held, even if it is a shawl that you've wrapped around yourself, or something you're leaning against, or getting in the bath and letting the water hold you. Trying to work on this with our partners too, so we can hold each other, so there's real physical people there. Maybe you have animals, but we really need this contact of knowing that we are loved and held. So if you can imagine your body might be tense and you're moving forward, instead imagine you soften with your breath and you lean back and you invite in that earth presence or that goddess presence at the back of your body, especially your spine, your back, your root, all through your body, just that you are held and you are loved. And so as you feel this, imagine you're receiving from that holding a deep, supportive presence. It's almost like you've plugged back in to the earth's chi and you are being restored, you are being filled. So imagine you're drawing that energy through your cells, through this holding, into your body and into your field, and into any place that is hurting, any place that is grieving, any place that feels helpless, especially the wounded places or the stressed places. Let those receive holding, let those receive medicine, let those receive salve. You might even picture it like light coming through cracks. Just really let it all be filled so everything can be held right now. Your strong self, your scared self, your worried self, the realities in your life, your own body, just all of it, that you're being held, and you are so loved and seen and celebrated. Every one of us has a piece in this. Every one of us is in this together. Every one of us is really part of the same field. So, and there's plenty of support and holding for everyone in this field. There's no scarcity there. So go and allow the Great Mother, take as much as you need, and imagine all your sisters and all your brothers are all being held deeply too, that we are not alone in this time. And then when you're feeling complete with that, I'm going to invite you to wrap that around you and keep it with you at all time. But first, I'm going to just read you a little medicine from Wild Feminine. Just continue to be in that space wherever you are. This is called Reclaiming the Wild. I am drumming. 20 women form a circle on the floor. They lie with heads together and legs extended, each pointing out from the center like a great star that pulsates with the beat of this drum. I ask the women to feel the drum's vibration in the root of their bodies. They follow the drumbeat to their wombs, where life itself begins. Encircled by pelvic bones, round and smooth, the root of the female body is like a bowl. Here, in her womb, a woman will find the energy she holds for herself and for mothering her creations. For centuries, women have been the bowl and basket makers, weaving containers that held food or water, just as their bodies held the energy of the children and home. In urban settings and modern times, female roles have been redefined. But a woman's body still holds or releases energy from her root place just as it always has. Women are the energy keepers, their bodies a record of past events. As a woman travels to the root of her body, to her pelvic bowl where she stores this accumulated energy, she discovers what she has been given and makes her way forward from there. The drumming stops. Rising from the floor, each woman rights herself to sitting. They look at one another, wearing the face of the wild. They have journeyed into the source of their womanhood. Remembering long forgotten landscapes, women speak of ancestors, ancient songs, births and spirits, the terrain of the wild feminine. A communal spring of distilled beauty, the wild feminine revives each one. Breath upon breath, they are calling her back, retracing her path in their roots, reclaiming the wild in themselves. So that's the medicine that we have in our bodies. Nothing can destroy that medicine. It's always there waiting for us, just like the earth has been waiting for us to turn back and connect with her. So I invite you to allow that medicine to rise up in this collective pause, in this collective reset that we're in right now. Allow it to remind you that you are held and that you are supported and you are loved in this transition time. Allow it to give you a container that will buffer you from some of the rocking and rolling that's going on, so there's a stability of energy around you, and just wrap up that great mother energy that you were envisioning and almost put it on like a shawl and just carry it with you. And whenever you need, whenever you're feeling sad or grief struck, or you're not sure about where we're headed, take a moment, lay down, sit down, receive the great mother deep into your bones, into your cells, and let her hold you as we do the work of reorienting and rearranging ourselves into this new time. May you be held, may you be loved, may you restore the wild feminine in your own center.